In front of me is an iPad, and on that iPad is the images and videos of Reddit's hi-fi audio thread. We may also look into the vintage audio thread. Let's see how far we can get. And we're just going to talk about what I see here. I may have an opinion, I may have some information that may be useful for you, I may learn something. And when I say we're going to talk about it, I mean I'm going to talk about it, but you're free to respond underneath this video or on my Facebook page. I made it the Rolling Troll Facebook page. You can follow. It's not much on it yet, but it allows me to post a bit more short stuff and photos and such that don't really work on the YouTube social format. There's a YouTube community tab on each YouTube page, and I do post there, but it's a bit limited compared to Facebook. So reason I'm doing this is I've been busy with the whole Ukraine thing. I have friends there and everything, so I've been working on that, and I just didn't have time to make a proper video. There's plenty of videos in the making. There's a whiteboard there with some stuff on it. Actually, one of them is this video. So that's good. One of them is something on 78 RPM records. And one of them is a jokingly trying headphones as microphones, because that's actually something that works. So we got some fun stuff coming up. I'm also trying to find audio to work on so I can make some testing videos. But in the meantime, this is what we'll be doing. If this is not for you, feel free to skip. If this is for you, enjoy. And we're starting with these Marantz speakers. So the guy who posted this already said, I have no model number, I have nothing, is 160 dollars, sorry, a good deal. I assume this is in the US. $160 for any Marantz speaker is only a good deal if you want to resell them. Japanese speakers generally are not that great. Sony made a few good ones, they didn't make them themselves. Yamaha actually was good at making speakers. Those NS1000s that are so famous are actually really good. So yeah, there are some good Japanese speakers, but generally Japan is not the brand to go for speakers except for a few very high-end models. And I've never heard a Marantz speaker that was even remotely good. So unless you really like the design, which let's be honest is pretty cool, not worth 160 and definitely not in this shape. They're dirty, there's a logo missing, what on earth. Also, I have no clue how big they are. Looking at them, I'd say, I don't know, a small 3-way, 2-way maybe. I think this price is a bit ridiculous, but the label says they sound fantastic. And that seems to be part of their label, so maybe they do audio. I don't know, let's move on. Commercial. Here we have an audio rig. So I'm zooming in on those speakers. They look familiar. Is that ELAC? I'm not quite sure, but they look good. They look pretty promising. And then there is a Project. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Project. They have some record players that are okay, but they're overpriced. The cheap ones just aren't great sounding. You're better off getting any cheap record player that is probably even cheaper, like an Audio Technica or whatever. This one is also combined with the Autophone OM. I think an OM10, but I can't see the numbers on the other side. Cartridge. I think they are pretty bad. I think they are not great cartridges. They're pretty high compliance, so they're not that easy to match with arms. They're very supple in the way they are suspended, so you need a pretty light arm. And they're pretty boring and dead sounding, and so is this Project. It's a dead mechanism. There's nothing to resonate or to be musical. It's a really dead sounding arm. This is not a carbon one, but it's slightly tapered towards the end, and that really deadens the sound of a record player arm. So I'm not a big fan of this record player. That said, they don't ruin your records, they always work. Project has great service, so if you are more about the practical sides of things, there's nothing wrong with Project, but it's not a brand I would recommend. What I do like though is the little sheet. I think it's an amplifier. Sheet's just always great for the money. It's really cheap and it's really serious, and it also looks cute. Here's power amplifiers, so I guess this sheet is just there for preamplification because it does actually connect to the devices. And then there's an equalizer, so I get the display. The display is kind of cool, right? But if you need an equalizer, something's wrong. And if you put it like this, something's very wrong. Equalizers make all sorts of weird phase changes, so they always have downsides, whether you like to or not. They can help you in a difficult room, but you'd have to get a proper equalizer to get it to sound proper. I actually use an Ashley equalizer here, the model 3102, but I use it for my studio monitors, so they are tonally correct in order to do remastering on it, because if I don't, I will not have enough low end in my mix. I will have too much low end in my mixes, because I'm so close to them, you don't get a lot of low end where I sit, so I had to adapt that, so what I do here sounds good on other rigs. But other than that, equalizers are a pretty bad idea. They lengthen the chain of the sound, they lengthen with all the wires and knobs and things in it. They lengthen the amount of stuff the sound has to go through, and it just weakens your sound. A good equalizer is a very expensive equalizer. And if you don't absolutely need one for a very specific reason, don't go there. Here we go. That's a cheap and cheerful record player. It's an Audio Technica 80 LP60. I see a brown A2 amplifier, which is actually a pretty good sounding amplifier, despite it being a bit form over function. The whole brown Atelier rig that this is part of is pretty good. Audio Technica playing some Columbia records, probably Miles Davis or something. These are good record players. They come with a proper Audio Technica 80 3600 cartridge. I'm not sure what this video is doing, but he's trying, or she, or they are trying to show something. Bit rough, I must say, but they may have hooked it up to, I don't know what's going on here, it doesn't matter. But this is a pretty nice setup. It's a cheap and cheerful amplifier, it's a cheap and cheerful record player, and if they have good speakers, which we can't see here, this could be pretty okay. Commercial. What is this? I see flat speakers on the wall. I am not sure what that says. It seems to say KEF. Yeah, probably some surround setup. I don't care about surround. So this is not for me. I'm just going to skip on to the next one. What's this? Cute little speakers. Yamo. Okay, so Yamo made those massive disco speakers in the 70s and early 80s. Those were horrible. Those were actually really bad. But then in the early to mid 90s, they actually started making pretty good speakers, to such an extent that, I don't know these speakers by the way, but to such an extent that I've been auditing speakers, and I saw BMW, and I saw KEF, and I saw all the other brands, and Yamo was often the cheapest and one of the best options. So don't dismiss Yamo because of what they did in the 70s and 80s, because they actually got a lot better. I do love an old Pioneer amplifier. I never got the point of receivers. I don't listen to radio, and I think it's a compromise. The power supply has to do all that instead of just amplification. But these do sound good. Problem is, all of the capacitors, all of the transistors and everything are in need of replacement, or at least checking. So vintage, yeah, I love vintage audio. It can sound just as good as new audio. Not really better, I think. Just as good. But there's a risk of buying it. Even if it seems to work fine, if it's not completely overhauled, chances of it sounding as good as it once did are virtually none. So I'm not a big fan of vintage audio unless you know what you're doing, and I don't really do a lot of vintage, but it looks really good. I actually love the cabinet as well. That's a pretty cool setup there. Oh, here we go. Not sure what's going on with the speakers that are on top there, but they are Sansui speakers, so yeah, I don't expect too much, although they look pretty nice. I don't mind the case design. They're playing Spotify on a nice HP laptop. We got some headphones there. Cool, realistic VU meters. This is just power meters. It's just meters, but I would love those. I have absolutely no issues with that. We've got a topping DAC here, a digital to analog converter that also supports DSD from what I can see. Toppings are usually great. And what's this? I can't see the brand, but it's, I think, a preamplifier of sorts. I'm not quite sure, maybe a head amp. I can't really figure out what that is. Maybe it's used with the other speakers. And you got a nice Nico receiver. Nico actually made a lot of pretty good stuff. This could be a really good sounding receiver, but the same story as with the Pioneer that we just saw. It may need an overhaul. And this is Sansui as well. So I don't have high hopes for the speakers. There's a sub here of Sony. I can't take. So this person probably should consider some other speakers, I would say. Because even though Sansui made some speakers that are they didn't make anything that's great. So I wouldn't hang on to these speakers. I do like the setup. It's kind of cool with the slanted rack and the tilted speakers, even though it doesn't make a lot of sense. Although I do think, since as guitars, maybe he's standing up a lot and wants to have sound while playing guitars, something like that. That may be the reason for those other speakers. Slightly confusing setup, but kind of charming. Alesis, those are pretty badly mangled. Alesis made some pretty good professional audio on a budget. I don't know if these speakers are any good. That tweeter looks like a C's or an Audex. These don't look like bad speakers, but I don't know how bad the filtering is. I don't know anything about the design. Don't agree with the record player on the amplifier, because record players are all about resonances, and if you put it on an amplifier, it will go more easily. So I wouldn't do that, but it looks stable. It's an Audio Technica 80 LP120X. Great record player, not the best build quality. But it's a really good record player. Also, it has the Audio Technica 80 VM95E cartridge, which is a really good cartridge for the money. I got one right there, and I got an 80 VM95C right next to it. So those are great cartridges. E stands for elliptical, C stands for conical. That's an even simpler stylus. And then you can upgrade the stylus to EN, elliptical nude. Nude means it's shot into the cantilever, you know, where you have the cantilever and then you have the little point, that's the stylus. That's the needle, the tip. If it's a non-nude stylus, it is glued in there, and the glue actually dampens resonances, which is not good. And a more expensive one is shot in there. It's much harder to do, much more expensive, much easier to get it wrong. So they lose a lot of money there. So a nude stylus is usually about twice the price of a non-nude stylus. Elliptical is the shape, so EN is elliptical nude. And then you have microline, ML, which is a step up, which is also sort of an elliptical stylus, but it's shaped better. It follows the groove better. Those are, again, about 60% more expensive. So the AT95E, AT-VM95E, there's also an AT95E, that's an older cartridge. The AT-VM95E is about $60. The AT-VM95N is about $120, and the AT-VM95ML is close to $200 US. Great card, and that's a really good sounding record player actually. It's about as good as an SL1200, just not the build quality. Two things. First of all, the cartridge is not mounted in there properly. Get a protractor, do it properly. It's just in the middle and it's not supposed to be. Second, turn off the quartz lock, it will sound better because it's overcorrecting and sort of deadening the sound of the platter, which just gets corrected continuously, and it really takes the life out of the music, especially in the low end. Again, I don't really see the point of receivers, but this is a pretty cheap receiver to get these days, and it's not a bad sounding one at that. This setup, provided that the Alesis speakers are good, could sound potentially pretty good. Yamaha cassette deck, that's a KX500 I think. Great sounding 2-head deck. And we have a Yamaha, he likes his Yamaha, or they like their Yamaha. Yamaha DVD player. Not the biggest fan of using DVD players for CDs because they're slow, but it works just fine. The real problem here is that that cabinet isn't that solid. You're going to hear that. I would definitely put the speakers on something dampening at least. I would prefer to not put them on the cabinet also because they resonate the stylus, which is a bad idea. Also, it's built in between cabinets or walls. I think it's cabinets. So you get a bit of an echoey space there. It will sound a bit hollowy like this. And you don't want that. So yeah, not the ideal setup, but a nice combination of components. I'm not too saddened. Not a clue what this is. And that's probably also what they're asking. We got little KEFs, LS50s or whatever they are. Really good speakers actually. I'm not a KEF fan. But those are good speakers. If that's a subwoofer, that's a really bad place for a subwoofer. Because it's going to resonate everything. And I'm not a big subwoofer fan. You generally don't need them. And we got a Cambridge audio something. I think it may be a streamer or a receiver streamer. Cambridge is awesome. Modern day Cambridge, even though it's not as cheap as it used to be, because Cambridge was actually pretty affordable, it's really good. I would take those speakers away from the wall a bit. They need space. I would probably turn them in a bit. But the Cambridge and the KEF combo, get rid of the sub. This can sound pretty good, actually. Really good. But yeah, the setup needs some work. This is definitely in the UK. You can see from the plugs with the little switches. You can actually turn the power on and off for each plug in the UK. And all plugs have a little fuse in them. It's a good system. There are more KEFs. Is this the same? I think this may be part the same. Maybe this is a before and after. I think it may be, and that's actually a bit of an upgrade. Still need to move those speakers forward further. We got the Cambridge, but it looks pretty good. We got some nice... Oh, I'm supposed to know what this is, but I don't. It's an RME DAC or something. This, I think, is a blue sound streamer, which is good stuff. Good sounding stuff. If I'm not mistaken, I hope it is. And this is probably a Rega. Yeah, I think that's a Rega Elise cartridge. So it's probably a Rega record player. They don't sound bad, but they're so badly built. I don't really get the point of Rega. I think it starts becoming fun at the RP6. Under that, it's just not great. Also, the lamp turns on and off right there. I'm realizing how critical I am. I'm sorry, but I really am. Because I heard a lot. I do not like a focal. I do not like the inverted domes. They are incredibly aggressive. It's also a metal dome. I do not like the way they balance their speakers. They're aggressive. They're messy. I've never heard a focal speaker that I like. That's all I got to say about that. I know the brand Nehegel. And I have the feeling that it's pretty aggressive sounding, which would be a bad combination with vocal, but I'm not quite sure about that, so I'm not going to comment on that other than that. But this is definitely not, here's some tarot cards. This is definitely not going to be a setup I'm going to enjoy. Placement of the speakers is alright though, looks good. Quite far away from the wall. In front of the television, that's good. So this is someone who sort of knows what they're doing. But either they haven't heard other speakers enough, or I just completely disagree with that taste. BMW. If this is a question, which ones he should take, go for ALAC. BMW made some amazing speakers. The DM2, DM4, DM5, DM6, DM12 are really good. The DM110 is a nice speaker actually. CDM1s, pretty good speakers. 805s, Nautilus, pretty good speakers, but they're really expensive. And if you go to a high-end audio show, like a proper high-end audio show, BMW has their big models, which are about as expensive as the other high-end stuff, the real players. And it's worse. It's always worse. BMW is usually one of the worst performing brands at audio shows. These little ones, I forgot what the model number is, are not bad speakers, but they're not awesome. The ELACs though, for $400, amazing speakers. They're really lovely. Pretty easy to place, nice soft dome tweeter. They sound a bit old-fashioned, like a 90s speaker, but pretty refined. I highly recommend ELAC, this series of ELAC for first speakers. So yeah, I'm not just negative, I'm just critical. Whoa, we got Tannoys. Got Tannoys right there, and they are the SRM10B. I think these are the Devon, or maybe even bigger ones. It's kind of hard to tell. What do we have? Let me go through this video. Can I see what they are? No. We have Cambridge CXN. I got rid of mine because I didn't like the software, but my goodness, did it sound good. I think this is the V2. I'm not sure. The display looks a bit better than mine. The V2 is supposed to be a lot better. We got, I think, more Cambridge. No, what is it? Onkyo DVD player or CD player, and a Cambridge something. There's probably sound with this, but I'm not going to play that because... Ah, there we are. Yeah, Cambridge receiver or amplifier, Cambridge streamer, Onkyo CD player. Probably pretty good Tannoys. Would personally not combine... No, actually I would. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It's Cambridge. I would combine Tannoy and Cambridge. This rig is probably going to sound pretty good. Looking good too. Again, speakers, pull them forward. Don't put too much between them. I think those cabinets with the planes that are awesome, by the way. I can't zoom, but I think they look pretty cool, but they're not going to be very resonance free. So, not the... That's what they're playing. I wanted to hear. Not the biggest fan of the setup. What I want to say about Tannoy, I assume these are old ones that have the plastic pipe behind the woofer. So Tannoys have a dual concentric speaker concept. So they have a woofer, and in the middle of the woofer is a little tweeter, and it has a little pipe that spreads the sound out through the dome of the woofer. The tweeter's behind the dome, which is fabric, so the sound comes through. At some point they started using metal or copper pipes instead of the plastic ones that they used before, and it just completely ruined them. I don't think any of the modern Tannoy dual concentric sound any good. They all sound like trumpets. Drums sound like trumpets. Piano sound like trumpets. Guitars sound like trumpets. Everything sounds like a trumpet. It's horrible. If you check my videos on the audio shows that I did, there's the X5 show, there's the AAA show, AAA, Analog Audio Association in Germany, in Krefeld. You will notice the Tannoys are all aggressive sounding, except for at some point a rig that is actually playing from a Nakamichi Tri-Tracer cassette deck through old Tannoy, Devons, I think. Sounds beautiful. But the more modern Tannoys, even though they look classic, they don't sound great at all. How much time? 18 minutes. I'm going to go to 25 and then I'm going to switch to vintage audio. We got a GPX CD Walkman thingy, Discman, Jogger. We got some loop or whatever that is, and we got some PC speakers. And above it, I see a little stereo rig. This is going to sound horrible, but it's kind of cute. Omnidirectional speakers, I would say. Omnidirectional speakers have their sound pointed towards like a cone shape, as you can see, and that spreads the sound. Often it's a woofer at the bottom and a tweeter at the top. Sometimes it's something like this, and I don't know what this is. It sounds like a bubble of sound. It sounds very holographic. I think it lacks definition, but I think it's a cool concept. I wonder what the speakers next to them are. They look pretty promising, but no clue. We've got some headphones. Cambridge Audio head amp. Oh no, it's a DAC Magic. Well, that's a DAC with a headphone amplifier built in. We got Intel NUC, so that's a little PC running Windows 11, I think. Some headphones, TX, you don't buy these because you want good headphones. I know these, they sound horrible. Here's some Biodynamic, I think it's a DT770 Pro. If it is, that's a pretty nice pair of headphones. And these look like Sony Bluetooth ones. Sony is usually pretty good at that. Here it says Great Britain Sound. I don't know what the brand is, but it's some Bluetooth speaker. Interesting setup. I'm mostly interested in this Biodynamic. If it's a 770, I think that is a pretty nice pair of headphones. But if you want my IFI, that's probably a computer deck. IFI is pretty good for the money usually. Bit sharp sounding, but good audio, good small audio equipment. Got some Ubiquiti router. If you want some really good cheap headphones from Biodynamic, the DT150 is a really nice pair of closed back headphones. Recommended. These are Rogers, I would say, LS35a, highly rated speakers, and I think they are okay. They're very slow in the low end. They're a bit messy on the highs, pleasant but not very defined. I think it's a bit like the Spendor BC1, a speaker that they should have stopped making by now. It's not a bad speaker though. They're very pleasant to listen to, and I can imagine this is a really nice setup to listen to. Would I keep a pair of LS35a if I got them? Yes, because I do like them. Are they worth what they cost? No way. Focal headphones. I actually said to a friend earlier today, I want to hear focal headphones because I don't like the speakers, but I also don't like Sony speakers. I also don't like Sennheiser headphones, but I do like Sony headphones, and I do like Sennheiser microphones. So maybe the focal headphones are great. I want to try them, but I never have, so I have nothing to say about that. Denon, generally pretty good for the money. Not the most reliable brand, though. Power supplies are an issue. I lost it. No. Can I still get there? Yep, here we are. We got a pair of Dynaudio speakers. I've never heard anything Dynaudio that I didn't like. Dynaudio is generally pretty good. They also have great speaker cable. I got the Ocos myself on my living room rig, and it's a good sounding, affordable speaker, relatively affordable speaker cable. Oppo, you know them from their phones, but they made some pretty nice DVD players. Actually a good audio brand. Really not bad at all. Would recommend if I listen to CDs. This is probably, I don't even know what this is, probably a Project or a Riga, or I don't know, a record player. And then here comes the problem. I never liked Marantz. I don't like their vintage stuff. I don't like their new stuff. They did some pretty good stuff with Philips in the 90s, but that was a bit cheaper. I think their amplifiers, as good as they look, sound messy, muddy. The new ones are aggressive and still lack detail. The old ones are just, they always sound a bit underwater. I never liked Marantz. Sorry for that, Marantz lovers. The record player is in an enclosed space. Bad idea, because all of the resonances from everything in the room will concentrate in that space. If you've ever been to a festival with a tent, thinking next time I'm going to go with a camper or a caravan, thinking it would be quieter, you're wrong. An enclosed space amplifies all of the sounds around it, and it sounds like you're in a speaker. So bear in mind, that is a thing. I do like this. I like the serious little audio rigs that some brands did. Never heard this one, but I would give it a shot if I could get it cheaply. Generally, these are pretty good, these things. Generally, they are very surprisingly good for a small little thing. I would pair these with a cheap pair of speakers, like a pair of second-hand Wavdale Diamond 3, and just leave it at that. That said, I don't play CDs, so that is a waste. Also, they're using headphones. That looks like a cheap plug, so I'm not sure if it's any good, but yeah. Never heard these. I actually do like vintage Wavdales. I love the Wavdale Diamond 3, I already mentioned it. I love the Wavdale E series, E20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90, I believe. I love the Wavdale Dovedale. I have a pair. They're amazing speakers. Wavdale did a lot of good stuff. They also made a lot of crap, though. It's a bit hit or miss. These look beautiful. I would love these in my living room. I think they're gorgeous looking speakers. Love the stands. Actually, the records should make the stands better. I think that's a good idea. Got to love the Beatles Blue album, even if it's photoshopped badly. Yeah, these have the potential to sound good from the way they look, but I haven't heard them. I would love to. It's not broken, it's British. Ooh, that's a story. The Harman Kardon 330C. If you check my video about why I do not automatically dismiss snake oil, this is mentioned there. This was the first amplifier I heard in my life when I was like 15 or so. My dad bought it. I told the first one I heard. There's more coming. My dad bought it at a thrift shop. No, at flea market for $5. That's like $2, $3. Brought it home, hooked it up to his rig, and I was like, it sounds so much better. I never knew how much an amplifier could matter. So this and the 435, 3730, I'm not sure what the series is again. It's really good stuff, but it's vintage. They do age quite gracefully for properly old 70s amplifiers. Bear in mind they were once better. So, last one from this series. This person has a question. Wondering how you can plug something in. You're gonna need an adapter. Let's do the next one. Wait. I hope he doesn't have a speakers in counterface. That looks a bit weird. We got tape. We got a stylus for a Sony record player. Yep. Oh boy. Oh, that stylus is bent. So, same story. Turn off the quartz lock. It will sound better. That's a Shure M44/7. I have one. They're right here. They're shit, but they're worth money, so I'm selling mine. I already sold one. There's 2 more to come. So if anyone wants one, $75 you can have an M44/7 or an M44MB, which to me sounds the same, but for some reason no one wants the MB. The SL1200, by the way, great record player, but not worth what they cost these days. There's way better, more reliable record players, like the Pioneer PL112D. $100, $125, great sounding thing, always works. Last one, Lin. Nexus, don't know. I know these speakers. I've never heard them. Lin generally though, pretty damn good. Let's switch to vintage audio. Wow, vintage NSFW GIFs. Okay, what do we have here? Vesta Fire. I have nothing to say about this because I've never seen it before, but I like it. What do we have here? This is a Tascam Porta Studio. I think it's a Porta Studio. It's a multi-track cassette recorder. There's some more Tascam here. This person likes the Tascam. You don't see their studio equipment that often, actually. This is a pretty good looking setup. We got, I don't think that's an 8-track. I think that's a jingle player, actually. Music. Interesting with the Japanese lettering. I don't know most of this, but it looks really cool. And this is a nice looking meter, whatever it is exactly meant to do. I do feel like this has a Tascam-esque look to it, even though it's not. I wonder what that's about. Maybe someone can tell me. Same story, Nico, nice. This is probably one of those topping amps again. I'm not sure, but it's probably just an amplifier with one input. Great if you want to have passive speakers turned active. Also, this person bought a rice cooker or something. What is that even? Yeah, I don't know this Nico, but Nico, if overhauled, has the potential to sound good. I can't hate this stuff. I pretty much grew up with it, and JVC is generally nice equalizer settings. Let's push it all the way up. JVC is generally a bit better than you expect. This is probably, except for the CD player, one rig, and it's probably going to sound better than its cheap speakers allow it to. That's usually how it goes with these. Yeah, well, that's a thing. Oh boy. Oh, it's a Yorks. So this just yells crap. Because it is. We got a tuner, we got a timer, we got a lovely equalizer setup, we got a cassette player, and we have a CD player and whatever this is. And then we have this incredibly cheap looking record player. This is an early day vinyl killer. With the speakers, if the speakers are part of it, kind of cool, they look kind of cool. But this is just, this is just horrible, but kind of funny. Here's more Yorks. This looks a bit more promising, but knowing Yorks by now, it's probably going to be like a portable radio without speakers. Really cheap stuff. AM, FM, MPX, cassette recorder, 8-track player, programmable timer, booster, equalizer. Booster, that's one of those words that no one really understood ever. I do like the aesthetic. It's kind of cool, but it's linear motion driver. Which brand is this? It looks like Technics or something. I feel like I should know these speakers, but oh, Sansui. Right, Japanese. They actually look like they could be okay, and I don't say that easily about Sansui. They look like something like speakers from Scott or something. You know, one of the slightly off-brand ones that are still pretty good. Baseboard looks a bit weird, low, small, not promising, probably not the best design. I like that the tweeter is in the center, because you don't have a lot of refraction from the sound to the sides of the cabinet. Yeah, I'm curious about these. They could be okay. Electric Wizard's a good band. This guy loves his stoner / hard rock. Those speakers look promising. Oh, that's the back. Ha! So they actually do look good, see? Even though I'm always confused by mirrors. Yes, I'm just going to leave that in. We don't have to talk about Marantz anymore. I'm not a big fan of Sennheiser headphones. Those are actually kind of nice. Bit boring sounding, but not annoying. This, though, I'm not sure it's a 505 or a 606. The problem with this record player is the ultra-low mass arm. It doesn't fit many cartridges. That said, as much as I dislike the Autophone OM, it performs pretty well in this stylus. It's branded Dual DN something, not Autophone, but it's a pretty damn nice cartridge in this arm. You will not be able to upgrade it to anything. You can upgrade the stylus maybe, but it just works. There's some things that are problematic here. This, first of all, see this little pin here? That's a screw for the suspension. You have to screw it in. If you screw it out, the suspension is stiff and it will sound like shit. It needs to be able to wobble, so someone messed up. Here is the pitch control on the left, always broken because it uses a little tooth belt to get to the actual pitch control controller. It's a problem. If you buy one of these record players, 606, 505, 503, I don't know, anyone that looks similar to this one, if you plug it in, after an hour it starts smoking, no worries, it will keep working. They do that. I do like these record players. They're not amazing, but they're a good out-of-the-box solution. The smoking is a spark killer, by the way. It will just fix itself. Klipsch. I don't know which Klipsch these are, but Klipsch is awesome. Even their modern speakers are usually really good, even though they're cheap. The La Scalas are great. The Heresy are great. Klipsch just has loads of good speakers. And there's a Nakamichi CR2A. And the CR series, I think, is Nakamichi's most interesting affordable series. Even just the 1 and 2 are really good sounding cassette decks. I do recommend. And I think that's a Yamaha. Probably a Music Cost CD player, I think, from what I can see. So it can also stream. Or maybe it's a DVD player that I don't know. I think there's a fridge or something, and there's something dangling. Get high fidelity. Tech hi-fi. That's a lot of nonsense. It's kind of funny. Oh, come on, guys, with the Marantz. I'm just going to ignore the Marantz for now. Here we got a Kenwood KD 3050, I don't know, 5070, whatever. Great record player. I'm not sure if this is the one that is made of composite material. I think it is. These things sound amazing. They're actually really good record players with a nice arm. I think that cartridge is one of the weird Shure T4P ones. I don't think it's very good, but the record player, proper gem. Match that with a nice Audio Technica ATV M95 or a Denon DL110. It's a really good sounding record player. That does that say realistic? They can be good. They usually aren't. Realistic has the tendency to sometimes surprise you. I wonder what the little speakers are, whatever they are. They may be air refreshers for all I know. And we got an... Is that a sub? I have no idea what that is. We got a guitar amplifier anyway. Jazz Chorus 120 by Roland. That is a lowrider. That is too low. I have no idea what it is though. It also looks tilted to one side. Also, people tend to put these weights on their records and it's usually pointless. Only the really expensive ones work. That looks like an SME head shell, by the way. Is that an SME arm? I don't know what I'm looking at here. Bit worried about how low the stylus is though, but don't use the weights. Maybe this is actually a 45 RPM adapter, but don't use the weights. I have a few cheap ones as well. I got this with the record player. It's pointless, it just looks cool. I got this with the record player. It's not completely pointless because it actually clamps and it has a stroboscope, but it doesn't do anything for the sound. There's some really good ones out there, but you're looking at 400 or 500 euros. I have an Allsonic DS250 on my living room, my Micro Psyche. I got it with the record player. I would never buy it. The difference is this big. Not worth it. You know the drill. Probably need an overhaul. I low-key do like the realistic. I think it's pretty cool. I'm not too sure about the blue LEDs in the Pioneer, but that's potentially a good amplifier. Not a big fan of putting modern equipment with switching power supplies on or even near other equipment. And we got a record player that actually looks one of those Crossley C6s. That's the thing. The Crossley C6 is pretty much a project as well, but it's so cheap that it's actually worth it. Pro tip: Panasonic, good mechanic. I wonder if that record player, the CD player, is part of the rig. I don't think so. This looks so cheap. It's Panasonic. It's probably gonna work, but I don't expect this to sound awesome at all. Oh, what's happening? Well, yeah, that's a clear story. So what we have here is a pretty good cassette deck. There can be two things wrong. As you can see, the left channel is pegged, the other one's working. Either capacitors need replacing, and they are just giving all of the signal all the time. Sometimes you don't even hear it. It can be really high frequent. Or it's a dirty record switch. If the record switch gets dirty, it sometimes does that. So if you ever encounter this, put in an unimportant tape and go record stop, etc. Chances are it's fixed. Pro tip, again. I don't know if there's any sound here, by the way. Oh, there is sound. I think the one channel just works. Oh no, I don't think that's the sound from the tape. Love the fan. Love the whole thing, actually. Telefunken. So that's probably going to sound good. It's upmarket German. These record players are usually a bit too old to safely play your records on. Very high tracking force, etc. But gotta love a thing like this. I would use it with old records. I see a two-way system, so it's probably a full range unit and a tweeter. And this is a pretty awesome drawing. Good sound at low volume, but as volume increases, it becomes boomy and muddy. Yeah, that's usually dirty speakers or an amplifier in need of an overhaul. Nice DBX compressor limiter. Gotta love the looks, right? SCAD wall mount plugs. They always look so sad in the US. Yeah, that's dead. That's a pity. Pioneer did this stuff where they made echo devices and I don't know. They had all these effect devices that were kind of cool. This whole series is pretty narrow stuff. It looks really good. I would love a stack of this, even though I don't need it. And the display does all this stuff when you turn the knobs. It's a really cool looking thing. We got some Heathkit in the background. I think that's build it yourself stuff as well. Audio generator. This guy's got some cool stuff, man. Loads of Heathkit. Yeah, there you go. Probably the same dude. More Heathkit. I once heard a Heathkit amplifier. Is this another Heathkit? No, this is a... Well, something looking a lot like this. And I don't think it's that, but that sounded really good, actually. And this is just a beauty. My goodness, I don't care how it sounds. Look at the thing. It almost looks like these knobs are like lighters for a classic car. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, tape head, tuner, tape head, balance separation, normal, and then the tone for both channels, treble and bass. Oh, that's a beautiful looking thing. I would love that. What speakers are these? I cannot tell. They look generic. Is it those? No, this one's on a bucket. It's not a great speaker stand unless you fill it with sand. Good luck then. So the thing is, this cabinet looks old. This unit looks pretty new. But then it does say LTEC. Either this is a random speaker that they screwed into it, that's from like a later model LTEC that's just crap, or this is going to sound remarkably good if it's actually LTEC. Never dismiss an LTEC before you heard it. They're usually really good. These are Klein und Hummel, and they look like... what were those called again? Advents. I fully expect these to sound good, no matter how shit they look, because this series of speakers from America was usually... I think Klein Hummel is America, even though the name's very German, are usually really good. Generally, speakers that look like this, from this era, that look absolutely crappy, just sound amazing. Like, I have a spare of Acoustic Research AR4. They look horrible. They sound awesome. Klipsch, I already love it. Here's the Dual again. I think this is 621. If it is, it doesn't have the ULM arm, but I can't properly see. That could be a Kansas record, and this is a receiver. I have no clue. I feel like the Klipsches are going to be way better than the rig in this case, so may want to do something about that. Huskers! Thrift shop, I guess. Sony. Oh god, this is just, yeah. They didn't know what they were doing either at Sony. Whoa, what do we got? What do we have? Oh, audio magazines, cool. I should look into this because I may want some. Highly recommended cartridge, the Nagaoka MP110. What is gonna happen? That's a Thorens, I can hear the motor noise. Very specific. You hear that? Slight motor knock, yeah. I bet you that's a Thorens. He's not gonna show it, is he? No. That's a problem with Thorens motors. You can fix it. There's kits to fix it. I just don't really know. If that's a Thorens with the arm, I think it is. That's a great combination with a card, though. Just if it's a Thorens, and it is, don't use a weight on a player that has a sub chassis. It's springy and it has a certain vibration. That's the idea. If you change the weight, the vibration will be different. So don't ever use record weights on a player with a sub platter, with a sprung chassis, sub chassis. I said platter, I meant chassis. Beautiful Pioneer. Same story, vintage, may need some work, blah, blah, blah. You know the drill. I'm not the biggest fan of linear tracking record players. Generally, the ones that have a bit longer arm, like this one, do sound better. This is a beautiful looking thing. I love the design. I do love the Audio Technica cartridge, if I'm not mistaken. And this is cool because actually everyone says, yeah, that realistic is just a TIAC X3 or X300. And then they put realistic on it. No, it's the other way around. Realistic asked TIAC to build them a tape recorder. They built it. And TIAC was like, that's actually kind of a nice machine. And then they started making it. So it's the other way around. These are really, really good sounding machines. We got ourselves an equalizer. You know, I'm not a fan, but it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good, whatever that is. And we got Monty Python, I approve. Elliott Smith, I approve. Iggy and the Stooges, I approve. Loaded by the Velvet Underground. Pavement, The Clash. Dude, more Velvet Underground. I don't know who you are. Wait, what? Does it say for Django? As in Django Reinhardt? Anyway, I approve this person. Yeah, I was wondering how this was gonna work with the knob. And now I see. It's, yeah. It's slightly overly designed, but recording Blue Note records. That's not Blue Note, though. Doesn't matter. Love it. Whoa, a lot to take in here. So, I actually have this in my attic. Well, it's a 10-buck model 14 or whatever. You got some interesting looking speakers. These look German, like Telefunken or Grundig. No clue what this is. That looks like vintage JBL. Not really my sound, but they do sound kind of nice. I have no clue what that is. That looks... Okay, that's a Sony. It's an interesting setup. It's a bit pointless. It's a bit much. There's only one pair of speakers that wins this battle, and there's no point in having so many. I would probably go for these, from what I had to say, but mostly he's watching Top Gear. I even know which episode. That's the one with the Alphas. Was it the one with the Porsches? One or the other. Both have AA trucks, I think, and I approve of that. Yep. Your woofer is stuck, mate. Yeah, that one's fine. What are these? Interesting units. You got your full range and then two random tweeters, and this is one of those classic speakers where you're like, it may sound better than you think, but it doesn't make any sense. So if it sounds good, it's a coincidence. CD video from System Player. Where can I find the cable to input on the right? Yeah, good luck. Homebrew. Advanced. There's Advanced speakers. They did some good stuff, but I don't know which ones these are. Pre-recorded reel-to-reel tapes. They have the potential to sound beautiful, but they often don't because of mass production. But you got your Folsom Prison, which is great. You got Stephen Stills. I think that's his first album. And you got George Harrison. That's a nice selection of tapes. I would love those. Another vintage amplifier. I think we've had this one before. At least the model. Again, same story. Could be good, but you do need to overhaul it. Nice Technics. I think that's an SL... Well, it's either an SL19, 20, 21 or 22. I can't see. I think it says 22. Audio Technica cartridge. You may think it's a waste to put such an expensive cartridge in a simple... Oh, no, wait, it's 23 because it has this platter. Doesn't matter. Same arm. In such a simple Technics, but trust me, worth it. Bit confused about the speakers. They seem to be active, but there's an amplifier. I know these speakers, but I don't know what they are. Whatever they are placed really badly because they are bound to have a bass port. It will be at the back. It's just going to hit against the wall. It's going to be boomy and messy, and please put them on stands. Do completely agree on Bill Evans. This is a beautiful, that is a beautiful record, by the way. I never actually really got this one for some reason, but Still from the Rich, kind of funny, good stuff. Socialism isn't a dirty word, yada yada. Bit too many blue LEDs, but that's a good setup. I like the setup. Just put the speakers in the proper space. Don't change your music taste. It's great. Yeah, TAC. These tapes now do about 60 euros each. These do more. They're actually good sounding, but I did a test with extremely high-end metal tapes, and the only one that really stood out as extremely good was the Maxell Metal Vertex. I think they are generally overrated, and I think a very good ferric tape already sounds amazing. Fostex tape, they probably didn't make it themselves. We got some XL2s, which are great tapes. UDS1, never heard that one. Interesting. Yeah, nice selection of tapes. TDK, humble TDKD, nothing wrong with that. We got a record changer, and here we go. What is that? A Garrod or something? It's not very subtle. It's not very subtle because it's on 78 RPM, and then it's just faster. If you buy records and the sides are 1, 3, 2, 4, that's because you can play 1 and 2. And then swap the whole thing around and then play 3 and 4 if you had a record changer back in the day. You got some old speakers, not sure what they are, probably nothing special. I do know that record player, it's a Kenwood if I'm not mistaken, and it's bound to be pretty good. Simple Kenwood CD changer and an amplifier. I don't know what it is. I like the looks, but I don't know what it is. Here's someone designing something. That's a pretty cool drawing, dude, whoever you are. And that is a beautiful receiver. That's probably in need of an overhaul. That's a Sansui. These things fetch ridiculous money. Judging by the background, the guy has probably overhauled it, or at least gave it a good clean. Bound to sound pretty good. Here's some Yamaha stuff in the background. I think that's some, I don't know what that is. The left one, maybe an Akai or something. The right one may also be. Don't know. Looking good. Yeah, this is someone saying connector. It's a DIN connector for speakers. And to the left of it are DIN connectors for audio. Please contact Vintage Stereo Equipment Cassettes. Should I get these? No. So that's not how you set it up at all. That record player is not going to be level. Revox headphones, probably not going to be great because that's not what Revox did, but kind of cool to have them. That poor Technics is going to get hot. There's so much wrong with this setup, but nice little amplifier, may need an overhaul. Don't put big speakers on it, it will not handle them. Those CD players are actually pretty rare and getting valuable. Here's a nice mid-range cassette deck by Pioneer. These are bound to be pretty good, but that old BASF tape from the 70s, no. But then, this. Sony's record players from this series are way better than you may think when you look at them. The XL15 or 150 cartridge is a great cartridge, usually comes with them. They're incredibly reliable, and they are just really good sounding record players. If you see a Sony in this range, and it's not the PLX1, this most simple one, I think it's called that, or Sony PSL1, PSX1. There's a very simple one with a fixed head shell. Don't get that one. Any of the other ones. If you're looking for a good starter turntable, that is a good starter turntable. Ouch. 15. Oh, I'd be tempted. It has an amplifier. Air Chief? I'm not going to get that even if I could, but old Pioneer speaker connectors, that's always a challenge. You can still get those plugs, but still. These are speakers that just scream form over function. They're either really cheap Infinities, because Infinity tended to do that, or they are some off-brand, whatever they are. These are not gonna sound good. If you need that many units to make it sound complete, you're doing a very bad job. I don't care what these are. They're not gonna be awesome. The rest looks interesting. I don't know what I'm looking at. I see power amplifiers and I don't know what this is, but I feel like, why are there weights on the... I am confusion. Technics. These rigs by Technics from that era actually sound remarkably good for like rec systems. The record players don't though. This series of record players sounds worse than plastic simple record players from a stereo rig, the ones that go on top. They are completely dead sounding. The cartridges are not great. I think this one has already been upgraded because I think originally it had an orange stylus. Love the little rack. Cute. System's probably going to perform just fine. The record player is worth replacing. Also, it's so unpractical this way. I never got these racks. Ooh. So yeah, you can't see it, but this has a little graphic speed level indicator, like a spectrum display. It's a JVC. It doesn't matter if it's simple or fancy. JVC cassette decks always sound pretty good. Spectro peak on and off. I wish it was functional in this image, but it's not. Yeah, I like the JVC cassette decks. They're always good. This is a lovely record player. It's the PL515. It's the simplest model with this arm, and the arm is great. The motor is always noisy on these. Without exception, they're always noisy. Even when they were new, I think they were. This one, that's broken, but that's fine. This person has no idea how to set it up. But yeah, get a hi-fi cartridge. Because there's no reason to get one of these. Great record player, worth a better cartridge. And I'm curious what that amplifier on the left is. And there's a mixing console on the right. I have no idea what kind of diode that is because I'm no oh god. Yeah, I've seen this before and I'm always surprised it's a Kenwood because it just yells cheap shit to me, but it may be good, I don't know. Iowa State, she seems happy about the speaker. So in Vega, people seem to like it. I've never heard one that didn't sound messy. I think it's one of those brands that you buy because you want the brand, not because you actually care about the sound, because they look absolutely awesome. I will gladly be proven wrong. I haven't heard that many, but generally So and Vega to me is a brand to just dismiss. We've already seen that one. I don't know what these are. They look alright actually. Like typical, it could be something like Dali or something, you know, your typical 90s tower speakers. These could be alright, I don't know what they are. Looking good. Ah, there's the Audio Technica 80 VM95C, conical, the cheap one. On a bloody strong rumble record player, BSR. It looks a bit weirdly tilted. I hope that is not the case. I don't know if that BSR is going to be any good, but that cartridge is nice. And it's a good cheap buy. I've seen this photo before. International Rescue. That is beautiful. What is that again? That looks almost like an EMT, but it's not. I don't know what this space is, man, but I want to live there. This is just so satisfying. So satisfying. Love it. No clue what it is. Grundig. These actually are pretty good sounding receivers. They were also, I think, sold with accompanying speakers that look really good with them. And you get sort of a table radio idea. These are good sounding receivers. If you want something low power, because they're probably like 2 times 8 watts or something, to get some nice vintage setup, you don't want to pay too much, and they actually age quite well. Give them a clean. Find some adapters for your DIN connectors, and these are pretty good receivers. And you find them for virtually nothing. I've given so many of them away or sent them off because they were not pretty enough or whatever. But they don't sound bad at all. So that's good stuff. Magnavox. Recommend it. The CD473. There's also a CD471. The difference is the headphones out and a bit of functionality. And you may think to yourself, butcher block acoustics. Why would you put a butcher block under a cheap Philips from the 80s? Because Magnavox is Philips. Because it's a really good CD player. If you want a cheap and cheerful CD player, get a Philips 471 or 473. Remember that. They are really good sounding. Yeah, that doesn't look promising at all. I have no idea what I'm looking at though. You know the drill. Needs an overhaul. Good stuff. Same probably goes for this. It looks so cool. They were so trying to get into the 80s. Double tape monitor and everything. CD, so it's from after 1983. It's a cool machine. I've never seen this before. But then I'm not in the US. That helps. That's a serious power supply. Oh, it's a Macintosh. So my thing with Macintosh is a bit like Marantz actually. Back in the day, in the early days, this is not early days from what I can see, they were actually really good. Their first couple of years in the 60s with tube amps. Holy shit. But after that, it just became a brand. I'm not a fan. I like an 8-track. 8-tracks are horrible. They age badly. They don't sound great, but they are... There's something about 8-tracks. What's the brand here? Sears. Okay, so that's a department store, right? I think. It's cool. It's probably going to be pretty bad, but it's cool. Pioneer CD player changer. Yeah, for your car and for your home, because you could put those cassettes in your car with 6 discs. Not too exciting. That TIAC though, it's a pretty nice little rig. I've heard that entire rig and it's really not bad. If you look for something small, It is recommended. It has a phono input. The phono input isn't great because of the time it was made in. No one cared. But it's a nice little amplifier. I do recommend. So Stanton's record players. I've always been baffled about the fact that their arms are off. Because you can already see from this DJ cartridge, which is really designed for something like this, it doesn't really match the grooves. It's just not, the overhang is off. Other than that, so you don't want to put these cartridges in, you want to put a proper cartridge and readjust it properly. Other than that, this is actually a really good DJ turntable. There's no reason to avoid these. I think the digital has something to do with the fact that you can use it with software and special records. My screen just went off, so it went a bit dark. But you don't have to. Turn the quartz lock off and enjoy it. I like that it's blue. I like that it's flashy. These are good record players. If you want something sturdy and you don't want to pay for an SL1200, get one of these. They're fine. They're absolutely fine. What's going to happen? Does anyone know how to adjust the azimuth? Yeah, there's two little screws. To the right of the head. My Sharona, that is a beautiful cassette deck that I've never seen before. And I like it a lot. Is that 3-head or 2? Let me see. Input selector. No. It's a 2-head machine. Oh, I like that. It's unpractically big, but KX 530? 830 it says so that right there. That's a beautiful machine. I've never seen that, and it's great. Needs an overhaul, Marantz. 11 or 12. I think the 11, that's a nice cartridge. The 12 is actually really good. If you get an 8012S, it's a pretty good cartridge. If it survived, well, it's old. The 11 is a bit boring and dull sounding, but not a bad card. There's no reason to avoid the 8011. How much time do we have? I'm going to go for an hour. More clipshes. What did they hook it up to? Yes, actually, vintage Sansui. Sounds great. Needs an overhaul. The usual. But these clipshes are pretty easy to power, so you can use a humble little Sansui amplifier like that. This is probably going to sound great once it's overhauled. And here's an Audio Technica AT-LP357. I can't keep them apart. Whatever it is, it's going to sound absolutely fine for the money. I think I see an Autophone 2M, which is a bad idea, and I don't want to talk about it. Electro Voice. I don't even know if this is going to work, but I love the way it looks. Got some amplifiers there, some monoblocks. Electro Voice subs and horn speakers. This probably is going to sound slightly off in a normal living room environment, but the way it's going to be off, but it's going to be kind of lovable. You're probably going to like the sound that comes from this, even if it's not ideal. Is that a computer right next to that massive subwoofer? I'm not sure if I would do that, but your mileage may vary. This is a cool setup. It's over the top, but it's cool. What are those speakers? They almost look Japanese. Does it say somewhere? Jensen. That's one of those brands that never really made it here. I don't even know if these are any good. I think not everyone agrees, but they look well designed. I don't mind the way they look. Bit too many speakers for me. I think 2-way is more than enough. But pretty looking speakers. Lovely cabinet. Lovely. I don't need my Mia, I guess. I can't see. Lovely camera anyway. And I think that's another vintage Sansui amplifier. We're probably in Sweden. If this stuff is overhauled, the amplifier, I mean, it's going to sound just great. I don't know what he uses for a source. I like everything here. It's a really nice, clean setup. Also, cat! Bonus points. Ha! Those are weird Wharfdales that I never saw here. They are Wharfdales from a slightly later time. So I think early 80s. And massive ones. I've never heard these. I'm really curious, but I have absolutely no idea what to expect. Also, I can't figure out if that's a painting or a television, which is a good sign. Dig the lounger. Yay! Cat. Nice space. People have nice spaces. Satellite speaker. What does he want to know? How do I use this? Just find a chord that will work. Well, yeah. Just find a chord that will work. That's the answer. A vinyl killer, but it's an awesome vinyl killer. That's cute. You can even wear it while it's $3.99. I would run. I would so pay way more for that if I had to. Lovely Nico. Noise reduction. Oh yeah, it's Dolby Dolby unit. So that's Dolby NR. Some people think Dolby A comes before Dolby B, but Dolby A is like an alternative to DBX. It's a studio standard. Dolby System is what you used in cassette decks before Dolby B, C, HX Pro, S became a thing. This is also known as Dolby NR. NR standing for noise reduction. What do we play? Some Russian, at least Eastern European record player that looks, tape recorder that looks pretty damn cool. No clue what it is, but I approve because reel to reel. These are good. I had one of these. These are really good sounding cassette decks. They do generally need some love after all these years, but they're good. Bon Iver, kind of nice. I wouldn't mind having that tape. Nicely grainy photo. Someone has been playing with that. I approve. This is a good look. This is just a beautiful machine. The usual, we got an equalizer. Not a big fan, but ADC is a pretty serious brand. It's called the Sound Shaper. It has nice meters with a little decibel display. This is probably going to be an okay sounding amplifier. I just wonder... equalizer. Just wonder why you use it if it's all off. So I guess, let me see. Line mic. No, I can't see if it's actually on right now. I hope not, because that shouldn't be necessary. Beautiful Sansui. That's a beautiful player, a beautiful receiver, but yeah. It's old enough to need an overhaul by now. I hate the volume control here, which is with buttons, but it looks beautiful. 5 more. 1. Overall story doesn't go for these. They age incredibly well. It says phono issues. Yeah, that could be a lot. Probably switches, but these age well. You can actually still use these if they are working otherwise without overhauling them, and I don't know why. Nico, we've seen that before. What's this? Looks cheap. Lovely. It's the same. Russian stuff that we had before. 4. These are not great, actually. They look pretty promising, but I've heard them, and they are just sounding like cheap Japanese speakers. Even though they were not cheap, they were Japanese, however. For some reason, they sound really messy and hollow, very hollow. Like it's an empty cabinet, and if you hit it, you hear tung tung. I think you can make them sound a bit better if you put a stick in it and wedge it in between, so they're a bit more rigid, and fill them up with a lot of wool, but they're never going to be great speakers. I think that's 5. Oh, let's end off with... Oh my god. Are they just doing this to make me be annoying? So, good record player. I think this is a Pioneer PL510. Is a really good record player. Grado cartridge. Nothing wrong with that. A bit boring sounding, but it's okay. Cheap Iowa cassette deck. Iowa usually, like JVC, is better than you think. Macintosh, don't like. Bose, don't like. Interesting Boses, though. They got some different Bose speakers that should sort of work. Then they put some random full range units in it that are maybe Bose, but they have like this spreader cone, so they're going to sound and spread very differently. The 901s, there's the equalizer. 901s need an equalizer to sound good. If you already build a speaker to need an equalizer to sound good, you made a shit speaker. Let's do one more. Japanese car? Not sure, but that is a beautiful radio that I would love in any vintage car. One more. Okay, that's enough for tonight. I do love this sheet though. This sheet is great. I actually have never seen this Marantz before. It's Miles Davis. That's interesting. It's a tape switch. Because apparently they didn't have enough inputs. Yeah, that's that. This was my first video of an hour on going through audio with you guys. And I'm curious what you think of what I had to say about it. I'm curious what you think of this kind of video. It's probably a bit long. I have a lot to say about this, but I'm not going to. It's probably a bit long. But I wanted to give it a shot. And I'm curious again what you guys think. I may do these in the future. I may do them live someday. Maybe that would be fun so we can actually discuss it. Just some thoughts. And this is just a bit of a filler. But I will get back with regular videos as soon as possible. From me and Neil Young, good night.